Are we good now? Now we have here a few guests here, and we're going to talk about leverage income, and we have a few questions for them. You guys ready?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have the mic?
Yes, we does.
I mean, you guys can sit down or you can stand up.
Hey, you can sit down.
Do it sitting all
Whatever you want to
day.
do, bro.
I was gonna say.
We are ready. Stand.
Now, the first question we have is, what made you get into real estate investing?
Yeah, so for real estate investing for me, when I was in the military, I spent 10 years in the military. It was one of those times where we had to decide, hey, am I going to commit to doing 20 years in the military, right? I'm trying to go for this pension that was going to be 50% of what I was making, or am I going to try to find another way to replace that income? And so real estate investing was something that was simple for me to get into, and I was actually doing that before I got licensed. When I realized that real estate investing can create passive income, I was like, yeah, this is it for me.
My story is similar. So I was in the military for 6 years, and I experienced the frustrations that most people will probably experience in any job. It's inefficient and, doing things the way that they've always been done, and I could easily see my future 5, 10, 15 years ahead, and I didn't like what I saw, so I wanted something where I didn't have to trade my time for my money. And after research, real estate investing made sense. So similar, I was investor-minded first, broker second.
And I was broker first. Actually wasn't even thinking about investing. I was just thinking about getting out of my current situation, which was not a great one, and I wanted to get out of that. But really, honestly, surrounding myself with people like this really got me into investing. So, question who you're surrounding yourself with, and if investing is a conversation in that circle. Because individuals like this actually got me into investing.
That's awesome. And the reason you guys here, because you guys also own some rental properties. And now the second question is, how did you feel when you received your first passive income check?
Great. Felt amazing.
That's it?
Let's see. Yeah, no, they call it a belief check, right? You get your first check and then you finally believe that this can happen. Same thing with revenue share, right? Like if you're not getting any revenue share right now, you haven't got that belief check. So that was that first belief that this is possible, and holy moly, if I could just build an accountability group and really start compounding this could be something big. And so it felt amazing, of course. I'm sure you all knew that would be the answer. But I don't know where I was going to go with that. I think I was going to pass it to Shelby. Shelby, here you go.
Hey, I was going to say something contradictory, just for fun. So, of course, it felt great. But it was also really eye-opening for me to realize it wasn't enough. And it was very eye-opening. So a lot of people get into real estate investing and they're like, I'm going to get one property and I'm going to be an investor and financially free. And I got my first check and I was like, damn, I got a long way to go. So very cool, but also it's a lot of work.
It's very similar, matter of fact. So Micah said something earlier. When you look at trying to make $100,000 a year in passive income, and you get your first rental property, you realize that, oh shit, I need 100 of these, right? So I can make the same amount of money. And you go through this process where it's like, all right, well, now I have to race to get so many doors so I can get the number I want. When in fact, we talk about this all the time, hindsight being 20/20, there was a lot of efficiencies that we did not see in the beginning that if we did, we could have accomplished some very similar goals financially with far less. So very similar, you get that one check and then it becomes somewhat of a race, like a blind race to a finish that you don't even know exists, if that makes sense, right? So it's something very insightful to keep in mind as you're growing.
And I was going to say real quick, in case you guys don't know, we all know each other. We're friends, real tight, so.
It all started with real estate, so
That's awesome. I mean, I remember our first check, a house we bought 10 years ago, and it's $875 a month. And that's crazy at this time. Now we own hundreds of properties, and it's like, you're crazy, and we always want to do more and more and more. That's amazing. Now the third question is, what is the number one thing you had to simplify to get to the next level?
The number one thing that that I realized in order to scale was systems. All right, what do I mean by that? Not the cliche like, oh, we need a TC. What I mean is that we have to understand that anything that we do, is a long process. And a lot of us are very impatient, right? But from the time, let's just think about it. One, you get your mindset right. All right, great. Now it says, okay, I'm ready to start looking for properties. That's a whole process within itself. Then it's like, I found it, but I need money for it. That's a whole process, you see? And so if you can just find ways to systematize the many steps of the many processes, then you can start to scale over time. But it took me a while to realize that before I went from my first VA loan house hack to being able to acquire over 30 doors in a year, right? But I had to work on those small steps in between.
Something that I sacrificed from the beginning, and I don't know if it's a sacrifice, you guys can all relate to this as well, it's the relationships and like the lifestyle I used to have. So with the mindset shift that occurs, you start to see it everywhere in your life, like the inefficiencies that you are, that are not in line with your goals. And so in order to meet your goals at the rate that you want to meet them, you have to sacrifice your old lifestyle, your old relationships that, are ready to meet you where you want to go. Maybe they'll come down the road. But it was a sacrifice of the old me in order to like embrace the future me. Ooh.
Mine's up. Can you read the question? What was the question?
So it's like,
Yeah.
what's the number one thing you had to sacrifice to get to the next level?
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so I don't want to feel like I'm copying, but I mean that's 100%. Yeah, I mean that's 100% true. I mean, you have to become a different person in order to break to that next level. I mean, listen to all the activities that we're being pushed to do today, right? It's all uncomfortable. You think our first conversation, well, I'm sure they had many, but when we actually sat down and had like a passive income conversation about what we were going to do, our goals were for me, were so low. But that's what it was going to take to at least feel fulfilled in the moment. But we had to level up past that. Man, I was looking at our numbers, personally, we're up 800% from that first meeting. But that person from that first meeting 2 years ago could not be and could not handle what's going on in our world today. So yeah, 100% what they said, you have to be someone different, to do something different, to have something different, right?
That's awesome. Now, what advice would you have for anyone considering investing?
What's it?
Advice.
Considering getting invested.
Start. Right, I mean, actually I get this question a lot. So I would say start changing the circle, the people around you, because probably more than anything you're having conversations about how much it sucks, how much liability you're going to put yourself in, how much overhead you're going to have. Oh my God, tenants suck, and by the way, there's enough of that. And I'm excited for this, which is Q&A, because I think this is where you guys are going to get the most value, but I don't know where I was going with that. Yes?
Advice to someone getting started, right? Okay, so I love START, and again, I'm just going to do the opposite for fun. Think about the type of life you want. Like, why are you getting into investing? Because a lot of people are just like, they paint this vision of riding off into the sunset, no responsibilities. But if you want that, there's probably different investments that are better for you than being a real estate investor, which comes with a lot of responsibilities that you don't think about. There's ways to get around that, of course. You can hire the property managers, but even then, they're still going to call you. Unless you have an asset manager, they're still going to call you. It's a whole thing. So just make sure that you truly understand why you want to get into investing, and then make your decision in which investment strategy based on that reason.
And that's exactly what I always advise everybody who's saying that they want to get started. Many people say, I want to get started, and I simply ask, why? And they say, well, because I want to create financial freedom. All right, that's fine. What does that number mean to you? Let's say it's $5,000 a month. All right, back to Micah's point, let's say we're only making $100 per door. How many homes is that? That's 50 homes, right? Or what if we had a single family home and then we just Airbnb it and we make $1,500 a month in net cash flow? Well, shit, I only need 3 of those. Which do you want? Right? Go back to the why. If you want time freedom, you have to make sure that your investment strategy is actually in line with what you want. Again, hindsight being 2020, you gotta see how many doors I got. Can I cuss? Fuck that. It is stressful, y'all. I'm telling you, hindsight's 2020. If I could go back, I could probably do about the same with about 25 Airbnbs, to be honest, right? So you have to ask yourself, what do you want?
That's awesome. And
I think
my
you do.
other advice I have is, I always believe, just, if you see it, just go for it. Just don't make it complicated, and that's the only way you learn. I remember my first, the first shopping center we bought. I believe it's like $350,000, and I called my friend, I said, hey, listen, he's the #1 commercial in Oklahoma City. And he told me, man, if you don't buy it, I'm gonna buy it. And I just jumped for it. I just bought the shopping center, and the guy, he died like a couple of years ago, and he told me, listen, I'm an old fashioned, you put $50,000 down, and if you change your mind, you lost your $50,000. But I did my own search, it's worth it, I put my $50,000, I bought it for $350,000, I sold it for $800,000 3 years later. You know, I don't make stuff complicated, I do my own search, if it makes sense, I just go for it. Now we're doing apartments, now we're doing restaurants, now we're doing hotels, you know, we don't grow up around this area. My dad don't own hotels and restaurants, but I have to learn. And if it makes sense, I just go for it. Now the other question we have, what have you seen that give you the biggest return?
Biggest return, all day, every day, you know what I'm gonna say? It's gonna be rev share. Seriously though, I mean, seriously though, $85 a month, no overhead. So if you guys, just a little bit more background, we started a team about 2-3 years ago. And we kept it a traditional team model because it came from Keller Williams. Old fashioned. There we go. Old fashioned, not traditional, old fashioned. Pay attention. All right, but we had the same issue that Louis had. We had a lot of overhead. It was somewhere around $50,000 a month, making sure that we supported our admin, we supported our marketing, and all this other stuff. But we realized, well, damn, we would love to be able to give back and give that opportunity to more of our agents and reduce our liability. And immediately the rate of return skyrocketed through the roof. On that note, I will just add one last thing to the last piece I wanted to say here is how Hamudi said just jump into it, right, and then go for it. Understand your metric, and what I mean by that is if you want cash on cash return, if you want internal rate of return, if you want total, whatever it is, understand what that metric is for you, and then find an investment that works for you. So if you want a 10% cash on cash return, you don't find that with RevShare for sure, right? But you could also find that in your other investments.
My best returns come from Airbnbs, for sure. So for those of you who are investors or don't invest, there's this thing called the BRRRR strategy, where you basically get to recycle funds. Like you can have the funds for one property and force appreciation and then capitalize on that force, it's too much. Recycle funds, and then instead of a long-term tenant in the property, a short-term. And for me, oh my gosh, like he was saying earlier, so I have 74 doors and I don't need those. I needed a few Airbnbs, guys, for sure.
Same, and I broke down the math because, I mean, I love this question. I just wanted to see, because this is something we do about quarterly, but this was a good reminder of, okay, so where are we at and what is my number one? So we ran numbers for 2020. Our number one was something we call a pass play, which is building the sales system, more of an asset that kicks off cash. Number two was revenue share in 2020. Number three was short-term rentals. All right, so now we're in 2021, so we're running year-to-date numbers. Number one, rev share. Rev share grows quick. It's kind of like a hockey stick, right? Like it's like this for a while, and then boom, it starts to shoot up. So that's number one. Number two was the pass play, still. And number three was actually short-term rentals, but they have more doors than I do. And then I said, okay, so what's the percentage of growth? So number one, the short-term rentals has grown 100, so in terms of growth and percentage, short-term rentals is growing the fastest. At number one, at 133% year to date, compared to the year prior. Number two, revenue share at 113%. And then number three, pass play at 48%. So you see where the focus is starting to go. So there's numbers to what's working best.
That's
and if
awesome.
you do have questions, whenever you're ready.
That's awesome. You have anything you want to add? Good. You know, go ahead, you have a question?
Yeah, when you say short-term rentals, you're talking Airbnb?
Yeah, so the market, and correct me if I'm wrong, the market usually hears this to be Airbnbs. And so we'll say Airbnb a lot just because the market recognizes that.
Right.
But it's a short-term rental, right? Because you can put it on Airbnb, Vrbo, and all other short-term rental websites, booking.com. and so on and so forth. So if you're talking to an investor, more than likely you're going to say short-term rental, and if you're talking to the market, they'll say Airbnb.
That's awesome. Also, my goal used to be before, when I hit 40 years old, I want to own 1,000 doors. That's why I went coach a lot of Tony Robbins. And Grant Cardone will always have to think bigger. You know, you get to the first door, 10 doors, 100 doors, but I mean, you know, when you get the first one, you get the 100, you can't get the 1,000. You just more work you have to do. But after I look at the EXP, I want to get 1,000 agents.
Yeah.
You know, guys, it's no liability, no lawsuit, no employees, no offices, no cars, no contractor, nothing. That's the thing I like about EXP.
And what I'll say is that if you guys set your goals and you actually hold yourself accountable to them, which is something that we take very seriously, you're going to achieve your goals so much faster than you ever imagined. When I first met Ruben, we sat down in his office and we wrote my goals, and I said 100 doors in 10 years. Not even 2 years later, I far exceeded that, right? And again, that has nothing to do with me. And anybody who knows me, I always give credit to individuals like this and people in the audience who hold me accountable to what the hell I say, right? Just know that if you write down your goals, you'll achieve it a lot faster.
Any other question?
No, I was just going to say, there's something that we attach to this accountability part. It's called a PC. So anytime you think you're passionate about something or you have a goal that you want to hit, obviously we have a ton of goals that were presented to us today. We attach PC to it. So the P is a promise. So you got to make a promise to someone who can care less about your feelings. Because there will be a lot of people who will let you off the hook. Right? And they think they're doing you a favor. And you just found someone comfortable to have an accountability partner with, right? You got to make a promise to someone who can care less about your feelings. And then the C is calendar. You got to attach a date to it. So when am I going to have X done? And you make that promise to the person who cares less about your feelings.
That doesn't cover. You have a question?
Yes, my question is, do you guys have any multifamily? And have you thought about that as a strategy? Okay.
Yes, so he has more multis than I do, but together we have a 21 unit portfolio. It's 7 triplexes, so it's not like an apartment complex, and then we have an 8 unit that we're about to refinance, and then I have a 6, and then we have a 5. Yes.
Yep. And I have a 57 unit hotel as well.
That's awesome. We'll go to the next question. Is how did your experience in investing play a role in your decision to join the EXP?
So, to be quite honest, when we first joined EXP, it's because we were over at Keller Williams and we were essentially being told what we can and can't do. Remember, we were investors first. So when we were trying to do subject twos, wholesales, all this other, crazy investing stuff, the leadership there didn't understand it, so they told us no. And we don't like being told no, period. So what we loved about EXP was the fact that obviously they allow a lot more freedom as long as we're doing things legally. But they allow us to brand ourselves. They allow us to have that freedom in how we want to run our business. Now, the investing side of the house makes so much sense when you think about it. Hey, I'm going to sell anyway, but you're going to reward me with stocks. You're going to reward me with rev share. And now the stocks are even paying dividends? Come on now. You talking to the right one. And it made it a lot easier for us to build out our team as well because we were targeting investor-minded agents as well.
And yes, what he said exactly. And I was going to say the avatar thing that we, did earlier was super helpful because we're investors first. So we really resonate with those investor agents. Those either they want to work with investors or they want to invest in themselves. And if you are that type of person, it works really well because there's literally no better place to be than EXP because of all the opportunities for passive income and building the future that you want. So super helpful.
Which I think that's why it's your avatar to align yourself with more people like that, because they get the numbers. So one of the reasons why we took up, because I'm also KW as well, I guess you can see up there, was freedom. We wanted, the one thing you cannot do, which I see a lot of people do, is they want to cap talent. They want to cap talent. They want to keep talent in a box and say, no. Yeah, it looks like a cool model, but follow this. This is the right way. This is the right way. And they're like, well, what if I just take a left? No. We don't take lefts here. You go straight. Well, what happens with talent, they think they can cap it. Talent leaves. They'll find a bigger bubble to grow their business and their empire, right? And I think, the same story you're hearing is just do not cap talent. It's exactly what I was feeling in the moment. And then glad that we got on that phone call because there's been more freedom. We found 3 other ways to grow a real estate team outside of the MRA model, but it's because we're allowed to be creative. We're allowed to play in the gray a little bit and build cool things.
I want to add one more comment about so Lewis made a great example when he was showing the Disney flow chart, right? Understand when we look at corporations, investors, or anything else, they talk about vertical integration a lot. That says, hey, how many ways can I do my business, my job, and make more income streams? Well, think about this. Now we sell real estate, we get the commission, right? We potentially get rev share, we potentially get stock options, right? That's 3 ways off of one transaction that you can be paid. And when you start to think in that way, now what you're doing is you're decreasing expenses, right, and increasing income, which for any of you who are business owners, not just investors, but business owners, that just makes sense, doesn't it? So it's almost like a no-brainer when you think of it in that way.
All right, guys, we have a question here. Do we have a question?
For all of your hold investments, like your rental properties, how much of an obstacle has COVID become for you guys?
0.
Again, never agree with these two, apparently. They need someone to disagree. So, short term, no issue. Airbnbs have flourished this entire time, and more they work off hotel rules. They don't, evicting people, no issue. So we also have long terms, and with our long-term tenants, yes, there have been issues. There's been people who have refused to pay, and then we can't evict them, and then they're going through these certain programs. It's a hot mess. So overall, we're still fine. Enough people are paying to cover mortgages and expenses and be fine, but it is still a pain. So, sorry to disagree.
The other thing I want to mention here, a lot of people, when we used to live in Oklahoma City, a lot of, especially real estate agents, they always come to me and they're asking, hey, can you teach us how to do investments, how to do flips and buying rental properties? But guys, we know it's not everyone is having 100, 200, $500,000 just sitting in the bank. He can do investments with it. And it's hard to start when you don't have money. You have to have at least a little bit of money to start. I don't believe like with no money you cannot start with the buy investment. But I switched this. I told him, hey, just come on, start with the EXP first. Start bringing the agents, start bringing the residual income. And after this, when you start saving the money, you start buying the investments. Don't just go to the investments in the beginning because a lot of money is involved.
I'll say on the COVID piece, just like Shelby said, tenants, they gave us a little bit of an issue. Financing, we got a little bit harder, which most of you guys experienced, right? They were a little bit stricter with their guidelines. But when it came to acquisition, acquiring more, that was actually a strong point, right? Warren Buffett always says, be greedy when others are fearful, and be fearful when others are greedy. Everybody's scared during COVID. We acquired another, 50 doors or something like that, right? So there was opportunity to be made. Just like Hamudi said with agent attraction, people were getting furloughed, laid off, right? So again, paying homage to the Lewis in the statement, right? There's always opportunity. You have to find it. Yes, next question.
Another question?
Yes.
Oh, last question. Don't ask too much question.
So my question is, so I plan to acquire an investment property because I want to obtain it, buying it cash. Do you guys think that it would be a better investment opportunity if it was a hold or just a flip?
Yeah, that goes back to what Mike said. It depends on your why and why are you even getting into investing. I'm a strong buy and hold guy because I'm an equity play guy because we have a net worth goal we're going after as well. And for us, that's buy and hold and then cash flow as well because it aligns with my why.
Also, you have to look at the market. Let me answer this day. I mean, it depends on the market. I mean, example, I just sold the house 2 months ago. I bought this house for $95,000 in Oklahoma City. My plan in the beginning is just to go spend $20,000 and lease it. I thought it would be worth $160,000, $170,000. But when the COVID hit, the prices like crazy, the real estate. We ended up selling the house for $215,000. It's just it depends what market you are in this time.
Yeah, the market, and then also the numbers will tell you generally. So if you are looking at a property and it is at, so the 1% rule is basically my rule of thumb when buying a long-term rental. So basically the rent amount should be 1% of the purchase price, essentially. And so if you are doing a renovation, that's not always going to fit. Like if the home is the Airbnb, the after repair value is $200,000, but you can only get $1,000 in rent, flip. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't make sense as a rental. So the property will tell you.
And I'll say, kind of just going along with everybody else, it's extremely subjective. There is no, if anybody ever tells you this is the best thing to do, bullshit, right? They're lying to you. Why? Because I don't know your goals. That's why I say go back to the metrics, just like she's saying the numbers will tell you. Well, if you said, hey, I'm only gonna do a flip, and it's risky enough for me because I'm gonna make $20,000, well, cool. Are you making $20,000? Yeah, cool, flip it, right? If you said, hey, I'm buying and holding, and I want a certain amount of cash flow, or cash on cash return, whatever it is, you have to know that. So I encourage everybody before you start investing is to understand your why and understand your metric first, because the numbers will tell you.
That's awesome. Let's give him a hand, guys. Thank you.